Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to you about something deeply fundamental, something that reaches beyond mere belief, beyond doctrine, beyond ritual. I want to talk about the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is not a distant, passive presence, but a dynamic force that transforms lives in profound and often unpredictable ways. It is the divine energy that catalyzes real change, reshaping individuals from the inside out and altering the very fabric of existence. This transformation is not a mere adjustment or a slight improvement in moral conduct. It is a radical reformation of the soul, a renewal of purpose, and a reordering of priority. It is the force that moves a person from a state of confusion to clarity, from weakness to strength, from fear to courage. When we speak of transformation, we must recognize that it does not happen in a vacuum. Change requires an agent, something that disrupts the current order and replaces it with something greater. The Holy Spirit is that agent of change. It does not simply tweak the edges of a person's life. It dismantles and rebuilds. The process is often uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, because real transformation requires letting go of old patterns, breaking free from deeply ingrained fears, and surrendering the illusion of control. But it is precisely in this surrender that true power is found. The transformative work of the Holy Spirit is evident in countless lives throughout history. It is seen in the Apostle Peter, who before receiving the Spirit was impulsive, fearful, and easily swayed. He denied Christ 3 times when confronted by a servant girl terrified of the consequences. But when the Holy Spirit descended upon him at Pentecost, he became a man of unshakable conviction, boldly proclaiming the gospel before rulers and crowds, willing to suffer imprisonment and even death for the truth. The same man who cowered in fear just weeks before stood firm in the face of persecution. What changed? The Holy Spirit moved within him, burning away his fear and filling him with a power beyond himself. This transformation is not limited to biblical figures. It is seen in the lives of ordinary people who have been touched by the Holy Spirit and set on a new path. It is the addict who, after years of bondage, experiences a breakthrough that defies logic, walking away from a life of self-destruction into one of purpose and self-discipline. It is the individual drowning in despair who suddenly feels a surge of hope and direction, inexplicably drawn toward a life of meaning. It is the person consumed by anger and bitterness who finds the impossible strength to forgive. These are not mere coincidences or moments of emotionalism. They are the fingerprints of the Holy Spirit at work, reshaping lives in ways that defy human effort alone. But transformation by the Holy Spirit is not merely personal, it is communal. When a person is changed by the Spirit, they do not remain isolated in their transformation. They become a catalyst for change in the world around them. The Spirit-filled individual influences their family, their workplace, their community. A heart set on fire by God cannot help but spread that fire to others. This is why revival movements have always been marked by a radical change in individuals that then spills over into society. History has shown time and time again that when the Holy Spirit moves, culture shifts. People begin to live with integrity where corruption once ruled. Families are restored. Societies that were drowning in moral decay suddenly experience renewal. This transformation, however, is not a one-time event. The work of the Holy Spirit is ongoing, constantly refining, constantly renewing. It does not simply strike once and leave. It is a continuous process of growth, a lifelong journey of becoming more aligned with truth and purpose. And this process is not always smooth. There are moments of struggle, of doubt, of resistance. But even in these moments, the Spirit continues to work, reshaping the heart, breaking through barriers, and leading the individual toward greater strength and clarity. Some might ask, if the Holy Spirit is so powerful, why do so many people remain unchanged? The answer is not in the Spirit's lack of power, but in human resistance. Transformation requires participation. The Spirit can nudge, convict, and guide, but it will not force itself upon an unwilling heart. It calls, but one must choose to listen. It opens doors, but one must choose to walk through them. Many people remain stuck in old patterns not because the Spirit is absent, but because they refuse to surrender to its leading. Fear of change, attachment to comfort, and pride all serve as barriers to the transformative work of the Spirit. But for those who do surrender, the results are undeniable. The Spirit does not leave a person the same. It takes what is weak and makes it strong. It takes what is confused and grants wisdom. It takes what is broken and makes it whole. This is why true transformation by the Spirit is unmistakable. It is not a simple act of self-improvement or willpower, but a deep, undeniable shift in the very essence of a person. It is why people who have experienced the power of the Spirit often find themselves drawn to things they once ignored, repelled by things they once embraced, and driven by a sense of purpose that cannot be shaken. To experience this transformation, one must be willing to invite the Holy Spirit into their life, not as a passive presence, but as an active force. This means seeking truth relentlessly, even when it is uncomfortable. It means allowing oneself to be convicted, to be challenged, to be stretched beyond what is familiar. It means letting go of the need for absolute control and trusting that something greater is at work. It means stepping out in faith even when the path ahead is unclear. And it means embracing the refining fire of the Spirit, knowing that true growth comes not from ease and complacency, but from challenge and surrender. The Holy Spirit in action is not a mere idea or theological concept. It is real. It is real, it is powerful, and it is available. It is the force that turns ordinary people into extraordinary forces for good. It is the breath of God moving through history, shaking the foundations of what is stagnant and bringing forth renewal. And it is here now, ready to transform anyone who dares to step into its power. The power of conviction is one of the most striking manifestations of the Holy Spirit in action. It is not a vague feeling or a momentary burst of inspiration. It is a deep, unwavering certainty that compels a person to stand for what is true, to speak when silence would be easier, and to act with integrity even when the cost is high. Conviction is the backbone of courage, the foundation of moral clarity, and the force that separates those who drift aimlessly from those who live with purpose. It is not merely intellectual assent to a set of beliefs, but an unshakable internal transformation that drives a person to align their actions with truth, regardless of opposition. When the Holy Spirit instills conviction, it does so in a way that penetrates beyond logic and emotion. It is deeper than mere knowledge, though knowledge is part of it. It is stronger than feeling, though it can stir the soul. It is a certainty that becomes embedded in the very core of a person's being. It is what allows individuals to hold fast to what is right, even when they are ridiculed, ostracized, or threatened. It is what enables them to resist the temptation to conform to falsehood for the sake of acceptance or ease. Conviction is not about comfort. It is about truth, and truth often demands sacrifice. History is filled with examples of individuals who, moved by the power of conviction, stood firm in the face of overwhelming opposition. The prophets of old did not merely suggest moral improvements to their society. They declared truth with boldness, knowing that it could cost them their lives. They were not concerned with approval or safety. They were driven by something greater, a divine certainty that they could not ignore. The same is true for the apostles, who, after receiving the Holy Spirit, spoke with such conviction that no threat of imprisonment, torture, or execution could silence them. What changed them from fearful men who fled when Jesus was arrested to fearless preachers who stood before rulers without hesitation? It was the Spirit-empowered conviction that they were speaking truth, and that truth was worth everything. Conviction is not limited to biblical figures. It is seen in reformers, leaders, and ordinary people throughout history who refused to bow to corruption, who stood against injustice, and who held on to their principles even when compromise would have been easier. The abolitionists who fought against slavery, the individuals who hid Jews during the Holocaust, the whistleblowers who exposed evil despite personal risk. These were people fueled by conviction. They were not perfect, nor were they fearless in the natural sense, but they were empowered by something beyond themselves, something that enabled them to act decisively despite fear. That something is the Holy Spirit. Conviction is not always dramatic. It does not always involve grand historical movements or public defiance. Sometimes it is the quiet but firm resolve to live rightly in everyday life. It is the decision to speak up when witnessing dishonesty at work. It is the refusal to engage in gossip or deception when everyone else does. It is the unwavering commitment to remain faithful in relationships, to raise children with integrity, to hold on to faith when doubt creeps in. Conviction is what keeps a person grounded when the world shifts, what allows them to endure trials without losing their moral compass, and what gives them the strength to continue when everything seems against them. But conviction does not come easily. It is not something that one simply chooses to have. It is something cultivated, something developed through a relationship with the Holy Spirit. It requires listening to that inner voice that speaks in moments of decision, that nudges a person toward truth, even when truth is inconvenient. It requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable realities, to challenge one's own biases and fears, and to surrender personal desires when they conflict with what is right. The Holy Spirit does not impose conviction by force. It offers it as a gift, one that must be embraced willingly. Yet many resist conviction because it is costly. It demands that a person confront their own failings, that they admit where they have strayed, that they take responsibility for their actions. It requires humility, and humility is difficult. It is far easier to rationalize wrongdoing, to make excuses, to blame circumstances or others. But the Holy Spirit does not allow for self-deception. It shines a light into the hidden corners of the soul, exposing what needs to change. And for those who are willing to accept that revelation, conviction becomes not just a burden, but a source of immense strength. Conviction, once embraced, brings clarity. It eliminates the paralysis of indecision. When a person knows what is right and is committed to it, they are no longer tossed about by circumstances or by the opinions of others. They walk with confidence, not because they believe themselves infallible, but because they trust in a truth greater than themselves. They do not act impulsively or recklessly. Rather, they act with purpose and wisdom, guided by the Spirit who sees beyond human limitation. In a world that often prioritizes convenience over integrity, where moral relativism blurs the lines between right and wrong, conviction is more needed than ever. It is what keeps people from being swayed by every passing trend, from compromising their values for fleeting approval. It is what enables them to stand firm when pressured to conform, to resist the temptation to abandon truth for the sake of ease. Without conviction, people drift, reacting rather than leading, following rather than discerning. With it, they become anchors of stability, beacons of light in the midst of chaos. The Holy Spirit does not merely suggest truth, it engraves it onto the heart. It does not merely encourage moral living. It ignites a fire that refuses to be extinguished. Conviction is not a fleeting emotion. It is a way of life, a force that shapes decisions, influences actions, and determines destiny. And for those who allow the Spirit to work within them, conviction becomes not a burden, but a gift, the foundation of a life lived with courage, integrity, and purpose. Truth and illumination are at the very core of the Holy Spirit's action in the world. The Spirit is not merely a passive presence, offering comfort in times of distress, a divine revelation, the light that pierces through the darkness of confusion and ignorance. It does not simply provide knowledge in the intellectual sense, but unveils a deeper, transcendent understanding that aligns individuals with the fundamental realities of existence. The Holy Spirit does not whisper vague suggestions. It reveals truth with absolute clarity, cutting through deception, uncertainty, and self-delusion. Human beings left to their own devices are prone to blindness. This is not just physical blindness, but a blindness of the heart and mind, an inability to perceive reality. People get trapped in their own perspectives, shaped by biases, fears, and limited understanding. They rationalize behaviors that harm them, construct narratives that justify their shortcomings, and cling to illusions that offer comfort rather than truth. The Holy Spirit acts as a force that dismantles these illusions. It exposes what is hidden, confronts what is false, and calls individuals into the light of truth, no matter how uncomfortable or challenging that truth may be. The illumination of the Holy Spirit is not the mere acquisition of information. It is a profound, transformative enlightenment that shifts the way a person sees the world and themselves. When the Spirit moves, it awakens an awareness that was previously absent. It causes a person to recognize things they once ignored, to see connections they once overlooked, and to understand realities they once misunderstood. It reveals purpose where there was confusion, order where there was chaos, and meaning where there was emptiness. This is why those who encounter the Holy Spirit often speak of an experience of clarity, a sudden and undeniable recognition of truth that they cannot unsee. This is not the result of human reasoning alone, but of divine revelation. It is why many who once lived in moral or spiritual darkness undergo dramatic transformations, as if a veil has been lifted from their eyes. The Spirit does not just suggest a better way. It reveals the truth so plainly that it demands a response. Those who accept this illumination find their lives fundamentally changed, while those who resist it struggle under the weight of their own deception. Throughout history, the work of the Holy Spirit in illuminating truth has been evident. The prophets of old did not speak from their own wisdom. They spoke as those whose eyes had been opened to see what others could not. When they declared messages that challenged kings, rebuked nations, and warned of consequences, they did so not because they had superior knowledge, but because the Spirit had revealed to them what was hidden. They did not always want to see the truth. Many resisted their calling at first, but once the Spirit illuminated them, they could not turn away from it. The apostles too experienced this divine illumination. Before receiving the Holy Spirit, they often misunderstood Jesus' teachings, struggled with doubt, and reacted impulsively. But after Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descended upon them, they spoke with wisdom and an authority that they had never possessed before. They no longer saw the world through the lens of fear or human limitation. They saw it through the clarity of divine truth. This is why they could stand before rulers and religious leaders, unshaken, speaking truth, even when it put their lives at risk. They were no longer guided by their own limited understanding, but by the Spirit's revelation. The work of illumination continues today. The Holy Spirit speaks into the hearts of those who seek truth, often in ways that defy human logic. It convicts people of wrongdoing not as an act of condemnation, but as a means of awakening them to a better way. It exposes lies that have been deeply ingrained in a person's mind, whether about themselves, others, or the nature of reality. It brings clarity in times of confusion, revealing the right path when multiple options seem equally uncertain. It enables people to discern truth from falsehood, to recognize wisdom in a world filled with noise, and to navigate life with a sense of divine guidance rather than mere instinct. However, illumination requires openness. The Holy Spirit does not force truth upon those who refuse to see it. There are many who resist its work, preferring the comfort of familiar illusions over the challenge of real transformation. Some turn away because truth demands change is difficult. Others reject it because it threatens their sense of control. But for those who are willing to receive the Spirit's illumination, the rewards are immeasurable. They gain clarity where there was once uncertainty, direction where there was once aimlessness, and a deep, abiding understanding that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. This divine illumination is not limited to spiritual matters alone. The Holy Spirit brings insight into every aspect of life. Relationships, work, morality, decision-making, and even creativity. It inspires breakthroughs in understanding, guiding people towards solutions they would not have reached on their own. It grants wisdom that goes beyond education or experience, enabling people to navigate complex situations with discernment and grace. It allows individuals to see past surface-level problems and identify the deeper issues at play, leading to real lasting solutions rather than temporary fixes. Ultimately, the illumination of the Holy Spirit is an invitation, An invitation to step out of darkness and into light, to move beyond confusion and into clarity, to live in alignment with truth rather than deception. It is not always an easy journey. Truth can be difficult to accept, especially when it challenges long-held beliefs or requires personal sacrifice. But the alternative is to remain in ignorance, to live a life dictated by illusion rather than reality. For those who embrace it, the Holy Spirit's illumination is a source of incredible freedom. It releases people from the burdens of deception, the weight of uncertainty, and the chains of falsehood. It opens their eyes to the deeper meaning of life, to the beauty of divine purpose, and to the path they were meant to walk. It transforms not only their understanding, but their very being, shaping them into individuals who walk in truth, live with wisdom, and radiate clarity in a world that so often thrives on confusion. The Spirit's light is always available, always reaching, always calling people toward a higher way of living. The question is not whether it speaks, but whether we are willing to listen, to see, and to embrace the true reveals never be the same. The Holy Spirit does not simply equip individuals with knowledge or insight. It grants them boldness and courage in a way that transcends human limitation. This is not a fleeting feeling of confidence, nor is it mere bravado. It is a deep, unwavering strength that allows individuals to stand firm in the face of opposition, to act decisively even when fear grips them, and to move forward with conviction when uncertainty threatens to paralyze them. This courage is not born from human effort or willpower alone, but is the direct result of the Holy Spirit's presence within a person, empowering them to rise above their fears and limitations. Human fear, human's the greatest obstacles to action. It paralyzes, it distorts reality, and it keeps individuals from stepping into their purpose. Fear of rejection, fear of persecution. These are the forces that hold people back from pursuing what they know to be right. Left to their own devices, most individuals will shrink back when confronted with opposition. They will hesitate when the stakes are high, and they will compromise when pressure mounts. But the Holy Spirit changes this dynamic entirely. It does not remove fear altogether, but it gives people the strength to act in spite of it. One of the clearest examples of this transformation is seen in the Apostle Peter, before receiving the Holy Spirit by fear. Though he was passionate and quick to speak, his courage wavered when it truly mattered. On the night of Jesus' arrest, when faced with the accusation of a simple servant girl, Peter denied even knowing Christ. Not once, but 3 times. His fear of consequences overpowered his devotion. He did not lack belief. He lacked the strength to act on it in the face of danger. But after Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descended upon him, he was entirely changed. He stood before thousands, proclaiming the message of Christ boldly and without hesitation. He spoke with authority before rulers and religious leaders who had the power to imprison or execute him, refusing to be silenced. What changed? It was not that Peter suddenly became a different person. It was that the Holy Spirit had filled him with a courage beyond himself. This same boldness has been seen throughout history. The great reformers who stood against corruption, the martyrs who refused to renounce their faith even under the threat of death, the ordinary individuals who chose to speak truth in environments where deception reigned. None of these people were without fear. But they were empowered by something greater than themselves, something that enabled them to act when others would have retreated. The Holy Spirit does not make a person reckless or thoughtless. Rather, it gives them the ability to stand firm when standing firm is costly. Courage, however, is not always about dramatic acts of defiance. More often, it is about the quiet, consistent choice to do what is right, even when it is difficult. It is the strength to have integrity in the workplace when dishonesty. It is the ability to speak truth in relationships, even when it risks conflict. It is the willingness to pursue a calling, even when self-doubt whispers that failure is inevitable. The Holy Spirit's boldness is not about arrogance or recklessness. It is about the ability to move forward despite fear, to trust that the power within is greater than the challenges ahead. One of the most significant aspects of this courage is that it is not self-generated. It does not come from hyping oneself up or suppressing fear through sheer determination. It comes from surrendering to the Spirit's power. Many people mistakenly believe that bravery is the absence of fear. True courage is the ability to act in the presence of fear, knowing that one is not alone, knowing that there is a greater purpose at stake, knowing that the Spirit is leading and sustaining. This kind of courage is particularly necessary in a world that often pressures individuals to conform, to remain silent in the face of falsehood, to compromise their values for the sake of acceptance. The Holy Spirit enables people to resist this pressure, to remain steadfast when others waver, to hold on to what is true even when standing alone. It does not mean that opposition will disappear. In fact, those who walk in the Spirit's boldness often face greater resistance. But the difference is that they are not shaken by it. They are not controlled by the fear of others' opinions, nor are they deterred by obstacles. They move forward because they know they are not relying on their own strength, but on the strength given to them by God. This boldness is not about seeking conflict for its own sake. It is not about being aggressive or confrontational simply to prove a point. It is about being unwavering in the face of adversity, about speaking truth in love, about refusing to compromise when it matters most. It is about having the inner fortitude to remain faithful to one's calling, to press on when discouragement arises, and to trust that the Spirit's power is sufficient even when personal strength runs out. The Holy Spirit does not call people to a life of passivity or timidity. It calls them to step forward, to take action, to live boldly in accordance with truth. And this boldness is not dependent on personality. It is not reserved for the naturally confident or the outspoken. It is available to anyone who surrenders to the Spirit's leading. The quietest individual, when filled with the Holy Spirit, can become an unshakable force. The most hesitant person, when empowered by the Spirit, can step into situations they never imagined they could face. The most fearful heart can be transformed into one that moves forward with confidence. Not because fear is absent, but because it no longer has control. To walk in the boldness of the Holy Spirit is to live with a sense of purpose that cannot be easily shaken. It is to know that one's actions are not dictated by fear, but by truth. It is to trust that even in moments of uncertainty, the Spirit is present, guiding, strengthening, and equipping. It is to move forward not because every question has been answered, but because the Spirit's leading is clear enough to take the next step. Ultimately, this courage is not about making a person look strong. It is about revealing the power of God at work within them. It is about stepping beyond human limitations and into divine empowerment. It is about choosing to trust that what is right is worth standing for, that truth is worth speaking, that purpose is worth pursuing. And when one embraces this boldness, they find that fear no longer defines them. They are no longer held back by hesitation. They move forward not because they are fearless, but because they are filled with the Spirit. And that makes all the difference. The transformative power of the Holy Spirit is one of the most profound and undeniable aspects of its action in the world. It is not simply a force that influences behavior or provides guidance. It is an active presence that brings about deep, lasting change in the very nature of an individual. The Spirit does not merely refine a person's habits or help them make better decisions. It reshapes their heart, renews their mind, and realigns their desires with truth. This transformation is not superficial. It is not about adjusting external behavior while leaving internal struggles untouched. It is a complete fundamental shifts in how a person perceives reality, understands themselves, and engages with the world. One of the clearest signs of the Holy Spirit's transformative power is the way it changes people. Many individuals attempt self-improvement through willpower, discipline, or education. And while these efforts can lead to temporary success, they rarely bring about deep, lasting change. The reason for this is that human effort alone cannot reach the core of who a person is. It can modify habits, but it cannot change the heart. It can influence thinking, but it cannot renew the soul. True transformation requires something greater than human strength. It requires the work of the Holy Spirit. The Spirit's transformation begins at the deepest level of a person's being. It addresses the root of the problem, not just the symptoms. Many struggles in life, whether they be addictions, destructive patterns, bitterness, or fear, are not just behavioral issues. They stem from something deeper. They are often the result of wounds, lies, or misaligned desires that shape how a person sees the world and themselves. The Holy Spirit does not simply suppress these struggles. It brings healing. It reveals truth in the places where deception has taken root. It restores what has been broken. It replaces fear with hope and confusion with clarity. This process of transformation is not always easy. When the Spirit begins to work in a person's life, it often requires them to confront uncomfortable truths. It exposes things that have been hidden, bringing to light the areas that need change. It reveals where pride has taken hold, where selfishness has been justified, where resentment has been nurtured. It does not do this to shame or condemn, but to set people free. True transformation requires honesty. It requires a willingness to see oneself as one truly is, to acknowledge weaknesses and to surrender to the Spirit's refining work. The life of the Apostle Paul is a powerful example of this transformation. Before encountering the Holy Spirit, Paul was a man driven by zeal but blinded by self-righteousness. He was convinced that he was serving God, yet he was persecuting the very people who carried the truth. His heart was hardened, his mind was closed, and his actions were destructive. But when he encountered the Holy Spirit, everything changed. His heart was softened, his perspective was completely altered, and his mission was transformed. He went from being a man of violence to a man of grace, from a persecutor to a preacher, from a destroyer to a builder. His transformation was not the result of a gradual shift in beliefs. It was the work of the Spirit, breaking through his blindness and reshaping him into the person he was meant to be. This kind of change is not limited to biblical figures. It happens in the lives of ordinary people every day. Those who were once consumed by anger find themselves filled with peace. Those who struggled with addiction find freedom they never thought possible. Those who lived in constant fear discover a boldness they could not have imagined. Relationships that were broken are restored. Purpose is found where there was once aimlessness. The Holy Spirit does not offer minor improvements. It offers a completely new way of being. But transformation is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. The Spirit continues to refine, to shape, to guide. There are moments of breakthrough, but there is also the daily work of renewal, of learning to walk in this new identity, of resisting the old ways of thinking and living, of growing deeper in understanding and maturity. The Spirit empowers people to not just experience change, but to sustain it, to walk in it, to live it out in every aspect of their lives. This transformation also has a ripple effect. When the Spirit changes a person, it can not just affect them, it affects everyone around them. A transformed life influences family, friends, communities. It becomes a witness to the power of God at work. It inspires others to seek the same change. It brings light into dark places, hope into hopeless situations. The impact of a transformed person is immeasurable, because the Holy Spirit's work in them is not just for their benefit. It is meant to spread, to influence, to draw others toward truth. Yet transformation requires surrender. The Spirit does not warn anyone. It invites, it prompts, it calls, but it does not override free will. Many resist transformation because it requires changes. It means letting go of old ways, stepping into the unknown, trusting that what the Spirit is doing is better than what they have known. It is a process that requires faith, but for those who embrace it, the rewards are beyond measure. The work of the Holy Spirit is not about making people more religious or more disciplined. It is about making them new. It is about breaking chains that have held them captive, about awakening them to their true purpose, about filling them with a power that is not their own. It is about taking what is broken and making it whole, taking what is lost and bringing it home, taking what is weak and making it strong. Those who have experienced this transformation know that it is real. They know that they are no longer who they once were. They may still have struggles, still face challenges, still wrestle with imperfections, but they are not the same. They have been changed from the inside out. They walk with a new sense of identity, a new sense of purpose, a new understanding of what it means to truly live. The Holy Spirit's transformative power is one of the greatest evidences of its reality. It does what nothing else can do. It reaches where nothing else can reach. It changes what nothing else. It is not a theory, not a philosophy, not a set of rules. It is a living, active force that reshapes lives in ways that cannot be denied. And for those who embrace it, there is no turning back. Because once the Spirit has transformed a life, nothing else compares. The Holy Spirit does not merely call individuals to faith. It actively empowers them to fulfill their purpose. This empowerment is not theoretical. It is tangible, practical, and deeply personal. It is the force that takes an ordinary person and equips them with extraordinary capabilities, not by their own strength, but through divine enablement. It is what allows individuals to step into roles they never thought possible, to accomplish tasks beyond their natural abilities, and to carry out a mission that aligns with a higher. This is not just about receiving spiritual gifts, though that is certainly part of it. It is about being given everything necessary to walk in the path that has been laid out for each person. From the beginning, human beings have struggled with the tension between their potential and their limitations. There is often a deep sense of calling, of longing to do something meaningful, yet the weight of inadequacy, self-doubt, and fear holds people back. The Holy Spirit eliminates this divide by providing not just the vision, but the power to fulfill it. When the Spirit calls someone, it does not leave them unequipped. It provides everything necessary for the journey ahead. A perfect example of this is seen in the life of Moses. He was called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, but his immediate response was doubt. He pointed out his flaws, his lack of eloquence, his fear, his inadequacy. By human standards, he was not the best candidate for the task. Yet God did not call him based on his own abilities. He called him based on what he would equip him to do. Through the Spirit's power, Moses was transformed from a hesitant shepherd into a bold leader who confronted Pharaoh, performed miracles, and guided an entire nation to freedom. The same principle applies to all who are called by the Spirit. There is no need to be the most talented, the most knowledgeable, or the most experienced. The Spirit does not require perfection, only willing. When an individual submits to the Spirit's leading, they find themselves capable of things they never imagined. They speak with wisdom they did not previously possess. They act with courage that defies their natural tendency. They persevere through challenges that would have otherwise overwhelmed them. This empowerment is seen throughout history. Great reformers, preachers, and leaders were often individuals who, by worldly standards, should not have been able to accomplish what they did. They were often uneducated, inexperienced, or unlikely candidates for their roles. Yet when the Holy Spirit moved in them, then they became unstoppable forces. The power of the Spirit does not depend on human qualification. It surpasses them. But this empowerment is not just for those in leadership or for those who seem to have a great calling. It is for every individual who follows the Spirit's leading in their daily life. It is for the parent who needs wisdom in raising their children. It is for the employee who must navigate ethical dilemmas in the workplace. It is for the student who seeks clarity in a confusing world. It is for the person struggling with self-doubt who needs the confidence to step into their true identity. The Spirit's empowerment is not limited to grand historical moments. It is available in the everyday choices, struggles, and opportunities of life. One of the key ways the Holy Spirit empowers is through spiritual gifts. These are not random abilities. They are intentional, given for the purpose of building up others and fulfilling God's mission in the world. Some are given the gift of wisdom, the ability to discern truth and apply it in ways that bring clarity to complex situations. Others receive the gift of teaching, enabling them to communicate truth in a way that transforms minds and hearts. Some are empowered with extraordinary faith. allowing them to trust in the face of impossible odds. Others receive the gift of healing, the ability to bring restoration where there was once brokenness. Each gift is unique and each one is necessary. The Spirit distributes these gifts not based on merit, but based on purpose. No one is left out, no one is overlooked. Yet, empowerment is not just about receiving gifts. It is about learning to walk in them. Many people hesitate to step into their calling because they do not feel fully prepared. But the Spirit does not require perfection before it empowers. Often, the power comes in the act of obedience itself. When someone takes a step forward, trusting in the Spirit's provision, they often find that they have been given exactly what they need in the moment they need it. The Spirit works through faith, not through certainty. It does not always provide the entire plan in advance. Rather, it equips as one moves forward. Another critical aspect of this empowerment is endurance. The journey of purpose is rarely easy.
There are obstacles, opposition, and moments of deep discouragement. Many people abandon their calling because the road becomes too difficult. But the Holy Spirit provides the strength to persist, to continue when others would give up.
This endurance is not mere stubbornness. It is a sustaining force that carries individuals through trials, disappointments, and failures. It is what allows a person to get back up after setbacks, to continue when progress seems slow, to hold on to hope when circumstances suggest otherwise. This endurance is seen most clearly in the lives of those who have faced persecution for their faith. Throughout history, countless individuals have stood firm in the face of opposition, not because of their own resolve, but because of the Spirit's strength within them. They have endured imprisonment, rejection, and even death with a peace and courage that defy explanation. This is not human willpower. It is divine empowerment. It is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be shared. The Spirit equips individuals not just for their own benefit, but so that they can contribute to something greater. Each person has a role to play, a purpose to fulfill, and the Spirit provides the tools necessary to do so. A person empowered by the Spirit does not sit passively. They take action. They build, they teach, they heal, they lead, they encourage, they fight for what is right. They do not shrink back. They step forward, knowing that they are not acting alone. Ultimately, the empowerment of the Holy Spirit is a call to movement. It is a call to rise beyond fear, beyond self-doubt, beyond hesitation. It is the fuel that allows people to live fully in their calling, to walk in strength they do not possess on their own, to impact the world in ways that extend far beyond themselves. Those who are empowered by the Spirit do not live small lives. They live boldly, they live purposefully, they live in a way that reflects the power that has been placed within them. They are not bound by their limitations. They are propelled by the limitless power of God. And in this, they find the courage to step into their true purpose, knowing that they have been fully equipped for the journey ahead. The Holy Spirit serves as a guiding force, leading individuals toward truth, wisdom, and righteous living. This guidance is not a vague intuition or a fleeting emotional impulse. It is a deep, unwavering direction that shapes every aspect of life. When people rely on their own understanding, they are often misled by personal biases, incomplete knowledge, and the limitations of human reasoning. But the Spirit operates beyond these constraints, providing insight that surpasses mere logic and emotion. It reveals what is hidden, clarifies what is confusing, and aligns individuals with a path that leads to fulfillment and purpose. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Spirit's guidance is its consistency. The world is filled with conflicting voices, opinions, and personal desires that pull people in different directions. Without a steady guide, it is easy to become lost in a sea of uncertainty. The Holy Spirit cuts through this noise, providing direction that is firm, unchanging, and rooted in eternal truth. It does not shift with cultural trends or personal preference. It remains constant, always pointing toward what is good, true. The Spirit's guidance is not limited to spiritual matters alone. It extends to every area of life, decisions about career, relationships, morality, and daily choices. Many people struggle with decision-making, feeling overwhelmed by the fear of making the wrong choice. They analyze, overthink, and hesitate, unsure of which path to take. The Spirit provides clarity, not always by giving immediate answers, but by shaping the heart and mind to align with the right course of action. It cultivates wisdom over time, enabling individuals to see beyond the immediate and recognize what is truly valuable. This kind of guidance is not always comfortable. The Spirit does not simply affirm what people want to hear. It challenges correct. There are times when the Spirit's leading is difficult to accept because it requires sacrifice, humility, or stepping into the unknown. Many people resist this guidance because it disrupts their plans or confronts their pride. But those who learn to trust the Spirit find that its direction, though sometimes difficult, always leads to greater purpose, deeper peace, and true fulfillment. An essential part of the Spirit's guidance is the conviction is to be. Conviction is not condemnation. It is the awareness of truth that leads to transformation. It is the voice that gently but firmly points out where one has strayed and calls them back to the right path. Many people ignore their conscience, suppressing the inner voice that warns them against harmful choices. But the Spirit persists not to bring guilt, but to offer a way forward. It reveals areas of life that need change, attitudes that need refining, and habits that need breaking. It does this not out of judgment, but out of love, seeking to restore and realign. This guidance is also deeply personal. The Spirit does not lead everyone in exactly the same way because each individual has a unique journey, calling and some are called to lead, others to serve, some to speak, others to listen. The Spirit tailors His direction to the specific needs of each person, guiding them according to their strengths, weaknesses, and divine purpose. This means that reliance on the Spirit requires attentiveness. It is not about following a rigid formula, but about cultivating a relationship in which one learns to recognize and respond to the Spirit's promptings. A clear example of the Spirit's guidance is seen in the life of the Apostle Paul. Throughout his ministry, Paul did not rely on his own wisdom to decide where to go or what to do. He was constantly led by the Spirit, sometimes in ways that seemed illogical at the time. There were moments when he planned to travel to certain regions, only for the Spirit to redirect him elsewhere. He trusted that even when the guidance did not make immediate sense, it was leading him to the right place at the right time. Because of this, he was able to spread the message of truth to the exact people who needed to hear it, in ways that would have been impossible if he had relied solely on his own understanding. This principle applies to every believer. There are times when doors close unexpectedly, when plans do not unfold as expected, when circumstances force a redirection. It is easy to become frustrated or discouraged in these moments, but those who are attuned to the Spirit recognize that such shifts are often part of a training. What may seem like a setback is often preparation for something better. What appears to be an obstacle may actually be protection from a path that was not meant to be taken. The Spirit also guides through discernment, the ability to distinguish truth from deception, wisdom from foolishness, good from evil. In a world where lies are often disguised as truth, discernment is essential. Many ideas sound appealing. Many choices seem beneficial, but have hidden consequences. The Spirit grants the ability to see beneath the surface, to recognize what is truly life-giving, and to avoid what is harmful. This discernment is not just intellectual. It is spiritual, it knowing that goes beyond human logic. It allows individuals to navigate a complex world with confidence, knowing they are being led by a force greater than themselves. One of the most powerful ways the Spirit guides is through peace. When faced with difficult decisions, people often experience turmoil, fear, or confusion. But when a decision aligns with the Spirit's leading, there is a deep, abiding peace, even if the path ahead is uncertain. This peace is not the absence of struggle, but the assurance that one is on the right course. It is a quiet confidence that transcends as anchoring a person, even in the midst of chaos. Yet, the Spirit's guidance requires listening. Many people struggle to hear the Spirit not because it is silent, but because they are too distracted to listen. The noise of daily life, the demands of work, the pull of entertainment, the endless stream of opinions often drowns out the still, small voice of the Spirit. Cultivating sensitivity to the Spirit's leading requires intentionality. It requires moments of quiet, of reflection, of prayer. It is in these moments that clarity comes, that direction is revealed, that truth is made known. The Holy Spirit does not lead aimlessly. It has a purpose for every person, a path designed for their good and the good of others. Those who choose to follow this guidance find themselves walking in alignment with something far greater than their own ambitions. They discover a life marked by purpose, wisdom, and peace. They navigate challenges with confidence, knowing they are not. They make decisions with clarity, free from the paralyzing weight of uncertainty. This is not a passive process. It is an active relationship. The Spirit does not force its guidance upon anyone. It invites, it prompts, it nudges, but it requires a response. Those who ignore it will find themselves lost in confusion, wandering without clear direction. But those who learn to recognize and trust its voice will experience a life of deep fulfillment, guided by a wisdom that surpasses human understanding. Ultimately, the Spirit's guidance is a gift, one that leads not only to personal fulfillment, but to the fulfillment of a greater purpose. It is a light in the compass in the storm, a voice of truth in a world full of deception. Those who follow it will not be led astray. They will walk in truth, in purpose, and in the assurance that they are exactly where they are meant to be. The Holy Spirit not only empowers and guides, but also transforms individuals, shaping them into reflections of divine character. This transformation is not a superficial change or a temporary improvement. It is a deep, fundamental shift in identity, mindset, and behavior. It does not merely modify external actions, but renews the very core of a person, producing lasting growth that is evident in every aspect of life. Human nature is inherently flawed. There is a tendency towards selfishness, pride, fear, and all the destructive patterns that lead people away from truth and fulfillment. Many attempt to change through sheer willpower, striving to become better versions of themselves through discipline and self-improvement techniques. But lasting transformation does not come from human effort alone. It requires an internal work that only the Spirit can accomplish. The Spirit does not merely instruct people on how to change. It actively renews them from within, breaking old patterns and replacing them with a new way of being. This transformation often begins subtly. A person may start to notice a shift in their desires, thoughts, and reactions. Where they once responded with anger, they now find patience. Where they once harbored resentment, they now feel a call to forgiveness. Where they once sought personal gain, they now desire to serve others. These changes are not forced. They emerge naturally as the Spirit works within. It is a gradual yet profound reshaping of the heart, mind, and soul. One of the most visible aspects of this transformation is the development of character. The Spirit cultivates qualities that are not always naturally present. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are not mere personality traits, they are evidence of a deeper renewal taking. A person who once struggled with bitterness finds themselves responding with grace. Someone who was easily discouraged develops resilience. A once impulsive individual learns self-discipline. These changes are not the result of self-help strategies, but of the Spirit's refining work. Transformation by the Spirit is not about suppression. It is about liberation. Many fear that following the Spirit means losing themselves, that they will be forced to conform to an imposed standard. But true transformation does not erase individuality, it enhances it. The Spirit removes what is destructive and cultivates what is good, allowing each person to fully become who they were meant to be. It does not create clones. It brings out the best and truest version of each individual. This transformation is also deeply personal. The Spirit knows the struggles, wounds, and weaknesses of each person and works in a way that meets them exactly where they are. Some need healing from past pain before they can move forward. Others need clarity before they can embrace change.
Some require a breaking down of pride, while others need encouragement to step into their calling. The Spirit tailors its work to each person's journey, ensuring that transformation is not just effective, but also sustainable. At times, this transformation can be uncomfortable.
Growth often requires letting go of what is familiar, and that can be difficult. Many resist change because it means stepping into the unknown, confronting hard truths, or releasing harmful habits. But the Spirit does not lead people into transformation without also providing the strength to endure. It offers comfort in moments of struggle, assurance in times of doubt, and encouragement when the process feels overwhelming. This transformative work is not limited to individuals. It extends to entire communities. When people allow the Spirit to reshape them, they influence those around them. Families are healed, relationships are restored, workplaces become more ethical, and societies begin to reflect justice and compassion. The Spirit's work is never isolated. It ripples outward, bringing renewal to everything it touches. A single transformed person can inspire countless others, creating a chain reaction of positive change. A clear example of this is seen in the lives of those who were once deeply broken, but were completely renewed by the Spirit. Stories of individuals who overcame addiction, anger, despair, or self-destructive tendencies testify to the power of this transformation. These are not mere behavior modifications, they are complete reorientations of life. People who were once lost in darkness now walk in light, not because of their own strength, but because the Spirit changed them at their core. This transformation is also an ongoing process. It is not a one-time event, but a continuous journey of growth. No one reaches perfection in an instant. The Spirit works patiently, refining and shaping over time. There are moments of great breakthrough, but there are also seasons of slow, steady progress. Those who submit to this process find themselves becoming more aligned with truth, more resilient in trials, and more at peace in their circumstances. An essential aspect of transformation is renewal of the mind. Many people are trapped by limiting beliefs, thoughts of unworthiness, fear of failure, patterns of negativity. The Spirit works to dismantle these falsehoods and replace them with truth. It reshapes perspectives, helping individuals see themselves, others, and the world through a new lens. This renewal frees people from the chains of their past, allowing them to move forward with confidence and clarity. Another critical aspect is the power to overcome temptation. Every person faces struggles that threaten to pull them away from the right path. Without the Spirit, resisting these forces can feel like an impossible battle. But the Spirit provides strength beyond human capability, enabling individuals to break free from destructive cycles and walk in freedom. This is not about mere willpower. It is about divine empowerment that makes lasting victory possible. Ultimately, the transformation brought by the Spirit leads to a life of deeper purpose. Those who undergo this renewal do not merely exist, they thrive. They walk with confidence, knowing they are no longer bound by their past. They embrace challenges with resilience, knowing they are not alone. They interact with others with greater compassion, knowing they have been transformed by love. Their lives become a reflection of something greater, a testimony to the power of true renewal. The Spirit's transformation is an invitation, one that requires openness, trust, and willingness to embrace change. Those who resist remain trapped in cycles of frustration and stagnation. But those who surrender to this process discover a life richer, fuller, and more meaningful than they ever imagined. They become not just better people, but new people, renewed, strengthened, and empowered to live in alignment with their true purpose. The Holy Spirit in action is not just an abstract concept or a distant theological idea. It's a living, dynamic force that transforms into a willing to receive, who are willing to receive. It is the breath of divine wisdom, burned in the absolute renewal. It does not merely instruct from the sidelines, it moves within, reshaping hearts, redirecting lives, and breaking chains that have long held people captive. The Spirit empowers individuals to rise above their limitations, to step into the fullness of their potential. renewal and to embrace a purpose greater than themselves. It provides the strength to overcome fear, the resilience to endure trials, and the wisdom to navigate an increasingly complex world. It does not promise a life free of struggle, but it guarantees a life filled with meaning, with direction, and with an unshakable foundation. It guides with unwavering clarity, cutting through the noise of confusion and offering a path. Those who trust in its direction find themselves walking with confidence, knowing that even when the way is unclear, they are not alone. The Spirit convicts and refines not to bring guilt, but to lead to transformation, a renewal that is deep, personal, and lasting. Above all, the Spirit is the source of true change, the kind that no amount of human effort can manufacture. It does not simply modify behavior. It renews identity. It does not just inspire temporary motivation, all lasting. It does not erase individuality. It elevates it, shaping each person into the fullest, truest version of themselves. This is the power of the Holy Spirit in action. It is not passive. It is active, alive, and ever-present, transforms. Those who yield to its work will find their lives forever changed, rooted in truth, driven by purpose, and marked by the undeniable evidence of divine renewal.